NASA had always been there in this 8th week, and it's Sunday, 2023. The SpaceX Crew 5 is the fifth crew operational NASA commercial crew program flight of a Crew Dragon spacecraft. And the eighth, that word, eight, you underline it, overall crewed orbiter flight. The mission launched on the 5th of October 2022 and transported 4 crew members to the International Space Station, docking there on the 6th of October 2022 at exactly 21:01 UTC. From there, I shall be working this very 8th week, Sunday, the 19th of February 2023. I intend to begin to send signals to Saudi Arabia that the royal family should come for the crucifixion cross and to be awarded to them that some criminals were not able to run a 51st paramount issue where we were knocked out again. But what God is saying here is more or less that at that time, said the Lord, they shall bring out the bones of the kings of Judah. So we shall bring out the bones of anything 51st royal family trying to destabilize the West Mainland after they were knocked off exactly 27th day of January 2023. In 3 hours, just as early morning, from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock a.m. They could not. So since that time, and all the bones of their princes and their princesses, and all the bones of their priests and their demonic priests, and the bones of, if they've got prophetess and all kinds, and the bones of the inhabitants of their own place of peace out of their grave. But if you tie that to Jerusalem, it's more or less something. And then they shall all spread them before the sun. It's going to be a Sunday like this. And then you should know that at Osun is the place. And the moon, like that of the 19th day, reflections of a bright, slight crescent moon, and whom they have served, and after whom they have walked, and whom they have sought, and whom they have worshipped. They shall not be gathered, nor be buried. They shall be for dongs upon the face of the earth. This is what God is setting out for the next 7 days all over. But I would like to move ahead quickly to the Microsoft Global Gateway First Earth General Hospital Peace and Joy Holy Miracle Knowledge Institution, owns the Teslim Balogun Stadium for all its fatherhood of all forms and responsible for the Slim Transition Program worldwide, as it in fact is guaranteeing it all. Also, such a Shiloh going on in honor of Zion converted Agege Stadium into Hague, that's Light Stadium, to be under Zion operation in opening the blind's eyes and so on. This very end, I would like to acknowledge and take to heart this day that the Lord is God in heaven above and on the earth below. There's no other. And that's Deuteronomy 4:39. It is the Lord your God, and you must follow, and him you must reverence. Keep his commandments and obey him, serve him, and hold fast to him. At this point, there ain't a step back, but I would like to introduce you to the Speaker of the planet's House of Representatives.
Okay, our position is crystal clear. We, with Sweden, we have made an application expressing our will to join NATO, and that will is considered by member states. 28 of them have accepted us. Then to Turkey. It's in their hands. We have got messages, and you have to be quite keen when you hear messages from Turkey.
Yeah. As we talk home, there are other issues that might blow your mind on the issue of a town hall or a government of Africa that had to have a big pentagon, heptagon, 7-gun with a 10-story building, and each of the offices are in the measure of a single plot of land. It will be homosexual government, a government that wants to produce government and institutions around the world without such a mighty and gigantic institution installed, which can call it the Defense Secretariat Defense or the Defense Secretariat Institution, 7-gun. It will be built exactly at the backyard of the Aso Rock. And whoever you were knows that the 7th week had passed and is trying to fast track understanding to send a message while I talked about them to actually explain what it is. This one I begin to stress the minds of people around town. But let me talk about that. Let us say that for me.
I want to congratulate the Ugandan believers for rejecting homosexuality.
And me for your Lutela, me Uganda, me where look me Tenguni.
These Europeans are really
Muni any
some issue with these Europeans.
Muni nem wigi petimabe.
So therefore, these European issues are very necessary. That from Wilson Span, Badagry, amusement park, there is an opportunity for some other bashes, different from the first bashes, that will be put there. That the message now is again coming in, not just by the seaside, but through Shiloh, and it is moving things around and standing responsible for all of the organizations and the body of Ephesus, Smyrna, Thyatira, Philadelphia, Laodicea, Sardis, Pergamum, and whatever one is remaining there. So let's go straight to keep record for today. Probably we might have one more thing to in what I believe African Union should keep stock of yesterday, so that the government is not a based homosexual government. We should have a secretariat where the executive council can continue to feed through that area, and that a secretariat as big as that, a secretariat defense system for the continent, will be able to produce stand for the rest. Just like Zion is standing for a lot of stadiums. We found 2 stadiums now. We found the Hague Stadium, and then we found the Knowledge Stadium. Also, this one will I bring Antonio Guterres to analyze for us in few minutes exactly 8 minutes what he had got a stock.
Your Excellency and dear friend, President Macky Sall, Your Excellency and dear friend, Chairperson Moussa Faki Mohamed, dear Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, dear colleague Secretary General Abu Ghait, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. Let me begin by recognizing President Macky Sall for his leadership as chair over the last year. President Assoumani, we look forward to working with you as incoming chairperson. And I want to commend all of you for uniting around the theme of an integrated, prosperous and peaceful Africa. The African Union is taking inspiring steps to help realize the enormous potential of this great continent. Africa is poised for progress. Agenda 2063, the decade of women's financial and economic inclusion, the continent's abundance of natural resources, and its greatest advantage of all, its people, representing diverse range of cultures and languages. In particular, I'm pleased to see your strong focus on job creation and the enormous potential of the African continental free trade area. This represents a truly transformative pathway to job creation and new sources of prosperity for Africans, especially for the youth. And I applaud the exciting progress that has been made so far and the commitment of President Issoufou as champion of this important effort. The United Nations is proud to be your partner and to work together. The ties between the African Union and the United Nations have never been stronger. But I also recognize the enormous tests that Africa, and indeed our world, is facing on virtually every front. I recently addressed the UN General Assembly on the multiple interlinked challenges confronting our world, greater than any in our lifetimes. And in many ways, the people of Africa are bearing the brunt of this crisis. A dysfunctional and unfair global financial system that is failing developing countries when they need it most. The deep inequalities in the availability of resources for the recovery from the pandemic. A cost of living crisis exacerbated by the consequences of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Climate chaos that the people of Africa did very little to cause, that is whipping up floods and deadly droughts, putting communities and lives at risk and displacing millions. And peace and security threats, often involving interests and profits far beyond the continent's borders. Excellencies, across all these areas, the message is clear: Africa needs action. First, economic action. Africa is rich with potential, but it's not rich in global support. Investing in Africa pathways to prosperity requires finance, and developing countries are repeatedly left in the lurch. The global financial system routinely denies them debt relief and concessional financing while charging extortionate interest rates. As a result, vital systems are starved of investment, from health and education to green technology, social protection, and the creation of new sustainable jobs. Meanwhile, women and girls are still not receiving the support and the investment they need, and in the classroom, in the workplace, in civil society, and across political systems. African countries cannot invest in these critical areas and climb the development ladder with one hand tied behind their backs. I've called for a new Bretton Woods moment to radically transform the global financial architecture. The beating heart of this system, every decision mechanism and process should be centered in the needs of developing countries. They should have a far greater voice in global institutions, including financial institutions. The Security Council, the Bretton Woods system are typical examples where Africa is dramatically underrepresented. We need a new debt architecture that provides debt relief and restructuring to vulnerable countries, including middle-income countries, while providing immediate debt suspension and write-downs to countries in need. Multilateral development banks should transform their business model and accept a new approach to risk. And this includes massively leveraging their funds to attract greater flows of private capital into your countries. And it means scaling up guarantees and adopting first loss positions in coalitions of financial institutions to support developing countries, particularly in Africa. I will also continue pushing G20 leaders for an SDG stimulus to support the Global South. The SDG summit in September must be a breakthrough moment in delivering support for developing countries and reforming a broken global financial system. I will continue standing with you in this fight. Second, Africa needs climate action. The brutal injustice of climate change is on full display with every flood, drought, famine, and heat wave endured on this continent. The countries least responsible for this crisis are feeling its most devastating impacts. Meanwhile, several African countries are demonstrating strong leadership on climate. This includes Kenya's green economy strategy, the effort to protect the tropical forests of the Congo, South Africa's Just Transition Energy Partnership, and the EU's ambitious green stimulus program. I'm encouraged by the leading role of the African small island states, role they are playing in championing the Great Blue Wall Initiative. It is clear the world must decarbonize, but we need to ensure that the transition to renewable energy is a just transition, particularly in Africa, where energy access and development challenges must be properly addressed. This includes wider access to technologies like battery storage systems, components, and raw materials. The upcoming Transboundary Battery and Electric Vehicle Value Chain Initiative, hosted by DRC and Zambia, is a good example. But all these efforts must be matched by a tidal wave of support from developed countries. They must deliver on the $100 billion promised to developing countries. They must deliver on the loss and damage fund agreed to at the last COP in Sharm el-Sheikh. They must deliver on doubling adaptation finance. They must deliver on replenishing the Green Climate Funds. And deliver on plans for early warning systems to protect every person in the world within 5 years, including the 6 in 10 Africans who lack these systems. In September, I will convene a Climate Ambition Summit in our pathway to COP28 in December, where governments, businesses, and civil society will demonstrate their commitment to reach net zero.
Thank you, Mr. If I move on, I hope Yahoo notes that the Bill Gates Foundation, it's the actual body that will lift the planetary governments, including all of this analysis. I just took note of them. We have many AI issues battling our health system, controlled by some oppressing divisions, such as this Sunday element. They had gone around to make us to advertise them, and we will need just an extraordinary action to deal with those ones. If they cannot fear I, there ain't going to be anything they would fear. In time, when the prophet TB Joshua passed on, and in time when my mom passed on, and the time when I will pass on. There are 2063 women inclusion program, which I cut it from age 20 to now. That's in fact in 64 years, I will still continue to exist on those programs. But I am a partner, an executive governor of the Old Lagos. In this Greater Lagos, we start in the grassroots with transportation and all of the issues in Zion and the old issues in the royal government, Ademosho, and now it's going to be empty, and now we can put one class of various kinds of goods and services that it could be a free trade zone, and there will be charges of economic and financial commerce grant. And in that, I take up your statement there, sir, job creation. Two, and that is inclusive at the free trade zone at First Tax 77. Those who clean the complex to eat 3 square meal for cleaning, and that's a free trade. Here also, I look at the magnification of those jobs worldwide. To say but a few, our correspondence will come from Bill Gates himself. I think right here, Africa, continent free trade area should increase. Should increase from Bako Jikoroni, Ivo, Ebony, and also should increase at the Head of State Palace. Abuja should also increase at the areas of the EFCC, the areas of Jabode Stadium, for areas of regions that had accept probably here at Madagascar. I think what we have there is a whole country now to take up the vehicle to reach here. It's not free. If you want to go into trade, you go into trade. And the cars that we talk about and the gas at the other side, we have it to be sold in the same price sold in UK. That's free. But there's a trade there where moyens are minted, and then we still have it more or less like Africa yen, Africa euro, Africa pound, Africa dollar. And I think all of them can be all in one to start with on the 5 naira notes as soon as possible. You will see the naira sterling. The global financial system is not more than that, but will be powered in the art country Abuja. Better still, the economic action is based on commerce action. We have a specific point at where we are guaranteed, and we have got the Bank of America back and better. I had boats in one single day of visitation where there's an armor that will be lifted and brought to Madagascar zone here. And then at P1, for repair, then the pound sterling can be on naira, and pound sterling itself will come into the free trade zone and make investments that will bonify the whole of the continent. As it goes on, I would like to exchange not just a comeback ashes of a 36 summit, but that something should turn out from it. Definitely, we have here the Africa Global Action, and which is that a part of Africa has got to move very fast in terms of delivery for those who are applying. So therefore, we know the quantity, and as long as nobody, then there shall be no effect to that. The Global Financial Architectural Institution is more than just a town hall to supply funds to all the global trade regions, free trades around the world, maybe from the Commerce Grant, Shiloh, move to Zion, Pentecostal, or to the ancient Torah Zions of the Palestinians. In those institutions, you see a town hall to finance countries in need. No matter how much they need, they must reach loot and request. If they don't, then we don't apply to them. Everything we have here of great amount of money, but they must have interest. They must be at a specific location, and until they are done, there is no reason why we care about it. Climate action are also one. In moving activities to early morning or late at night, so that we can escape from the sun blazing. The transition starts from energy, of course, which is electric around the world, the way we organize ourselves, and this transition continues to be celebrated henceforth from your humble side and the Brigade Foundation. That we can now, in few days, talk to Saudi Arabia to receive their rewards. And here I stand. Energy is from electric majorly and some frictions that produces various currents that might be sunlight, moonlight, and all sorts. If you look back at my statement, you would notice that God had intended to use something more like those that spread them before the sun and the moon, and then all the hosts of heaven. We have whom they loved and whom they have served. From here on, you will see that no matter how people actually had brought an ancient renewed from the presence of the Lord, they would not all be accepted because of their uprightness, because of their deeds, their wickedness somehow. They turn issues to that of the philosophies of Gandhi, whom they have worshipped. They shall not be gathered, nor be buried. They shall be for dung upon the face of the earth. So we have a philosophy of which we must be confident of ourselves that the human life is scientifically proved into the presence of God. And that's why I am saying right here that there's a perfect made whole in what Jesus exaggerates in them, or when he said we must be perfect as our Heavenly Father is perfect. Matthew 5 verses 48. This one reminds me of Samuel Netanyahu and a journey since 1948 and a journey in the month of May. And our journey from now till May 29th. They are very relevant. I think we have to reconfirm by identifying the majesty Matthew Okikiola Obasanjo Aremu, who is a lieutenant general by me, and who will look into a town, or of course like a mosque, where it was built in 1984 for the process of the Fifth Republic. This transition that actually points us to energy, electric, to drive everything we use in connecting ourselves together in a global world. Jesus commanded them, same issues here, to be parallel to passages from the old scriptures, and which might benefit the Palestinians. The first is where God instructed Abraham to be perfect, blameless before him. Genesis 17, verse 1. In this very 8th week, we will see that those who are very important on the mainland are actually being exposed in the form of nudeness at Whistling Spam Amusement Park. But somebody whose age is between 40 and 60, 3 years, 3 years, you must see that individual beside me all the time. Anytime the camera snaps, just like the way Vladimir Putin and his defense chiefs goes around, just like the way Korea, the dictator, goes around with his military. That's how it should be. So that as we talk from the top, he in the bottom there, picture him rolling, we need to work hand in hand to be able to secure a global financial system. Our transportation, electric vehicles, zero emissions, and all sorts are inclusive. The original meaning of being perfect in Hebrew and the Aramaic dialects, which Jesus spoke in competencies, or rather wholeness as Aramites, not lacking in what is essential. Definitely, the royal system of Saudi Arabia should then come into the matter and say, probably the moon crescent you're looking for is mostly back and front. They got the decision whether we should destroy the mosques that we hope to invite people through before Shiloh. And they wouldn't like to be at Shiloh, those who their faith and their perfection reject such, and yet some are attracted in the 5-time prayer. If they don't want that mosque at that crescent, we make decisions now that they might be destroyed. Apart from answering to your decision, sir, I am on my own directories as Secretary of State of the Universe, and this kind of a Sunday 8th week, I will look straight to some other issues. Instead of merry-go-rounding, we have understood the capacity of what we need, and we see that those things we need are not just for I, but for the rest of the world. More gas, more money, more cars, name it. This is what I call completeness or wholeness, not lacking in what is essential. Essential. Rather than someone who is very essential in the matter of lifting up for the next 2-3 years, we shall be in the greater Lagos. And we have to take transportation to any part of the world. Likewise, you switch on an electric here at P1 in a twinkle of an eye. You see it illuminated there at Eshatri Commerce. Whereas still at Addis Ababa here, or the new name Buhari in capital letter. The second passage that seems to parallel Jesus is expression, or that is to be in a perfect as being perfected rather in by an heavenly Father. It's a command that God gave to Musa and the people of Israel, as we all, that we should have a peace of mind somewhere, that we don't have to wage war anymore. And this is what we should hate on this earth from this 8th week. Many will actually be hated. Be holy, for I am holy. I remember God was telling us that no matter our righteousness, no matter how positive we are, things will keep failing. We must continue to find rights, and we must continue to secure that egg, the movements. If you don't have to its citizen access points and global communication and world Wi-Fi or some kind of aspects that will benefit them, is more or less of no value. I can prophesy that our dead body in the future will be dug out from the grave and placed outside. This is what happened at Jeremiah 8, verse 1 and 2 and 3. Senate. In this house of God issues, there are numerous of them which wakes one or the other. The homosexuality that Yoweri Museveni talked about are those things that destroy us from the 1st week to the 7th week ending, where what we should say become the icing on the cake. As DG from the fundamental area, I take up policy and I take up the custom officers, looking out in years that one could be possible. Joel Austin's Lakewood Church service is starting right away, but look at how they want to perfect their imperfection by not being part of the movement. For I am holy. God created each one of us in his own image and likeness, with the attitude of Satanism, with the attitudes of dragonism, with the attitudes of devilism, any attitude of other forms of demonic. But Oxford University still claims that God had said there shall be no loss. These characters of dragon and Satans and devil that we have had in our mind must be controlled by perfection. That is why he called us to grow in maturity and wholeness so we can truly be like him. A people who loves as he loves and whose choices to do what is good and to reject what is evil. The very most important person to deny in the house of God is evil. These ones create things that ensnare us, and we have observed them. To be perfect and be punctual in time. Our agreement must always be our agreement. Freedom and power to love as God loves. God knows our sinfulness and weakness better than we do, and he assures us of his love, mercy, and help. That is why he freely gives us his power, strength, and gifts, so that we may not lack anything. We need to do his will and to live as his sons and daughters, to be revealed by doing what is in the purpose of God in our generation at this time. We must know what God needs from us as a government of the world at this time. Whether to build a single pillar, we will do it. Whether to build the world, we will do it. We know the world needs to be repaired. As every day here in Tigray, we see people dying. We see people dying at Kiev. We see people dying all over Russia. It's everywhere. Just like Kofi had said one time, said the ignorance of an individual of an essential material to be lacking in what is essential, definitely we are bringing the world to jeopardy. And these are the work of evil. Evil are when an individual is denied of a necessity, an essential commodity, where you still at the free trade zone get something free. And when it's even free, you don't deserve them. That one jeopardized. And God is telling us this Sunday, this 8th week, we will be hated if we don't consider to supply those essential needs. And he assured us of his love, mercy, and help. That is why he freely gives us his electric power system to finance, to invest in it, and change all those people around town. I and Bill Gates agreed to work on this, and it's very expensive, but we have to just do it and gift so that we may not lack anything. We need to do this and his will, to live as his sons and daughters. 2 Peter 1, 2, 3. Do you want to grow in your love for God? Definitely you are called to depend on the Lord. And that is where total liberty can be found. And for your neighbors, ask the Holy Spirit to purify and transform you in the very image of the Father, that you may know and live in the holy miracle, joy, and knowledge that we found at the Microsoft Global Gateway at First General Hospital of the Holy Peace and Joy Holy Miracle and Knowledge Institution. that as Ahmad, we have found ourselves at this top transition. Somebody have to be upright throughout in dates and time and transform you in the image of the Father, that you may know and live in the joy and freedom of the gospel. I would not like to extend my welcome, but I would like to tell you, Yahoo, that we have come to stay and we have to create massive employment zone. And that's why Mark 10:45, meaning 6 plus 4 is 10. The vehicle there is 4.6 million naira. And then till I'm 40, till age 60, we shall be looking at a greater Lagos, a country where hundreds of governments are focusing on. And I will be looking at it from when we both look back at 1945, where we mark that area, probably from the 4th week to the 5th week. We shall be looking at it also from Jeremiah 51, where God had actually sent a strong wind to reduce the demonic organization that actually had aided us by not attending to what we had found and brought salvation, compared with what is sucking their blood there at Central Ife. God had told me to tell you now that for even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. This is what happened in Tokyo, that we might begin to run towards gratuity, pension, and that's good. I've just spoken with Elon Musk, and he had promised a tweet when a gratuity comes, and I said, he can let that happen. What we're looking for is somebody to respect and to be responsible for all of this perfection that we should be. As we ride on this week, I would also like you to encounter what I may naturally be encountering, such issues like we need ourselves to translate ourselves right from Pentecost, hundreds of lights were dropping on them, and they were speaking different languages. So you see, in fact, why he spoke in this time as well.
Et troisièmement, l'Afrique a besoin d'action pour la paix. L'ONU est fière d'être un partenaire de paix en Afrique. Qu'il s'agisse de nos forces hybrides et programmes conjoints, du renforcement des processus électoraux et des transferts pacifiques de pouvoir, de nos efforts de maintien et de consolidation de la paix, ou encore de nos initiatives conjointes visant à mettre fin au terrorisme à travers le continent. Mais notre travail devient chaque année plus complexe. Le terrorisme et l'insécurité s'aggravent et les conflits sont plus nombreux. Je suis profondément préoccupé par la montée de la violence des groupes armés observés récemment dans l'Est de la République démocratique du Congo et par la progression des groupes terroristes au Sahel et ailleurs. Je souscris à l'appel que vous avez lancé en faveur du rétablissement de gouvernements civils et démocratiquement élus au Burkina Faso, en Guinée, au Mali et au Soudan. Nous savons que la paix est possible. L'accord de cessez-le-feu conclu ici en Éthiopie sous l'égide de l'Union africaine, et je félicite le Premier ministre Abiy Ahmed pour le succès du processus, le cessez-le-feu instauré en Libye et les accords de paix au Soudan du Sud et en République centrafricaine, ainsi que les avancées observées en Somalie, sont autant de nouvelles porteuses d'espoir. Nous devons continuer à lutter pour la paix. Néanmoins, pour parler sans détour, les mécanismes de paix vacillent. Le système n'est pas aussi souple et efficace qu'il devrait l'être. Le nouvel agenda pour la paix que nous proposons au sein des Nations Unies vise à donner un nouveau souffle au multilatéralisme et renforcer nos opérations de paix dans le monde. Il est pensé selon une vision holistique, identifiant les causes profondes des conflits et empêchant les graines de la guerre de germer. Il doit définir une approche globale de la prévention qui fait le lien entre la paix, le développement durable, l'action climatique et les droits humains et qui s'appuiera sur une participation plus large des femmes et des jeunes. Et nous sommes déterminés à intensifier le travail que nous menons avec l'Union africaine pour promouvoir des structures de gouvernance démocratiques et ouvertes. Nous continuerons à renforcer et améliorer les opérations de maintien de la paix. Mais dans le même temps, et j'insiste sur ce point, nous appuyons sans réserve la création d'une nouvelle génération de missions robustes d'imposition de la paix et d'opérations de lutte contre le terrorisme, dirigées par l'Union africaine et dotées d'un mandat du Conseil de sécurité en vertu du chapitre 7, ainsi que d'un financement garanti et prévisible, y compris par les contributions obligatoires. Et nous devons continuer de renforcer notre collaboration sur des initiatives de paix majeures, comme nous l'avons fait avec le groupe indépendant de haut niveau sur la sécurité et le développement au Sahel. Je me réjouis d'œuvrer à vos côtés pour faire taire les armes et créer les conditions pour la paix, une paix indispensable aux 1,4 milliard de personnes vivant en Afrique. Excellence, le 21e siècle a tout pour être le siècle de l'Afrique. Et l'ONU est déterminée à travailler avec chacun et chacune d'entre vous pour libérer cet énorme potentiel et surmonter les obstacles qui se dressent sur notre chemin. Agissons pour l'Afrique et je vous remercie.
Thank you very much. At this very point, I would like to run off where there is a single million in dollar that will now be discharged to go around that area where funds might be needed, and I hope when Buhari returns from where he had wasted his time he will have run to P1, but issues had come to an end here, but it's a new beginning. And then we have the highest power, with the highest powers, having to establish some quickly a global financial system, which still depend more on Abuja to be the heart to pump the blood. And when those bloods are pumped in money, then it will drive the economy. We don't know how much, but $1 million ahead. I understand that these things are essential. Probably a pen, a printer, a computer, a cafe, a town hall, different from Bala Blue or Blue Black or Lava. I'm well notified that it's not one or two. They are to be built across the world, a place where we can think more uniquely, like what we have already got at a central mosque of Abuja, a temple, a head of state palace, stadiums around the world, local government councils. People rush in there on Sundays, those who are upright, and majority of them, we are all challenged by different languages and barrier at Pentecost, but yet you rose from the grave to die, and we call it the first day of the week. So definitely there are hundreds of issues that we attended to, and in that like manner, I support that the issues that are mounting around town were to be essential, and they were now issues of funding. Trust is there, the call of God is there, the grassroots is there, the connections are there. What God wants is face to face, and when issues are face to face, then there will be much implementations around town. This 8th week, I congratulate you all to find a Bible-based institution and give God the first place.